720,000.
970,000.
Over 1 million Lagosians, they know that if you give me your afternoon, I will give you hard facts.
Well done, Sandra, on all you do, going beyond the headlines and focusing on the facts.
I am Sandra Ezekwesili, and these are your hard facts. Hello, Lagos. Good afternoon. I am Sandra Ezekwesili, and these are your hard facts. 1 million Lagosians cannot be wrong. Thank you for listening to Hard Facts. I've got a great show for you, starting with the Big Three Global Edition. Let's talk about the moves to regulate AI. Then let's talk about the European Commission's tough talk on China. And then let's talk about Trump's indictment. At 4 o'clock, it's the last group stage debate of the I Beg to Differ Tournament of Champions. Stephanie Ame and Olaloye Tuluolashe are both already in the quarterfinals, but this match will decide which of them faces Deborah Pamzat and which of them faces Danvita Kaushik. That's at 4 o'clock, so tell someone to tell someone else it's happening. On Ayes and Nays, let's talk about the lawmaking process, the new bill to stop new doctors leaving the country, and the leadership tussle currently going on at the National Assembly. After that, it's Music and Moments with Ifeanyi, Sam and Dexter. Expect news, business, and sports at the top of the hour, every hour. But let's get started with today's Big Three. Lagos, I am Sandra Ezekwesili, and these are your hard facts.
Big Three Global Edition on Hard Facts.
Is regulation keeping up with developments in AI? Is the West fighting a losing battle against increased global relevance for China? How significant is Trump's indictment? Those are your Big Three Global Edition, Lagos. Let's talk. Every Friday at 3, we usually let Nigeria rest a bit and we instead look at the biggest stories that are happening from other parts of the world. And joining me to look at it is our guest, our usual guest on Big Three Global, Chief Andy Oboforibo. Welcome to the show. Good to have you here.
Great to be here, Sandra.
Now, we started talking about this story last week, but we didn't have enough time to really get into it. So I want us to come back to it today because AI is shaping our lives, even those of us who are in developing nations. Some big names in tech are calling for a 6-month pause on development of artificial intelligence. That's our first story on the show. We have an open letter by Elon Musk, the owner of Twitter, and Tesla and SpaceX, as well as Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple. And Chief, carry us along here. What are the writers of this open letter worried about when it comes to AI?
Well, that's a good question. So they are worried about multiple things, and I think you can put the worries into multiple buckets. I think the first big bucket is what they talk about when they say there's like an existential threat to society and to humanity from AI. So the idea that AI of this level, like what they're calling human competitive AI, that is artificial intelligence that can compete with human beings at tasks that before today only human beings could do, intellectual tasks. If they are afraid that such AI will eventually usurp human beings as the controlling force in civilization. So that's the first like bucket of concern there. Then excuse me. Then the second worry is AI will take away jobs, which is not as alarmist as the first one. But it's not about AI will take over society. This is that AI is going to take over jobs, and you're going to have a situation where you have fewer and fewer jobs for human beings because the AIs can do it. So, for example, AI can basically start doing accountancy. At that point, who will choose a human accountant who can make mistakes over an AI accountant, right? So over time, a lot of these jobs that till now we thought only humans could do, AI will be the ones doing those jobs, which of course, leads to, in the way they're viewing it, well, fewer jobs for humans to do. And so higher unemployment, it takes a hit on the economy. The economy takes a hit because of that. So that's the second set of concerns that they're worried about. The third set of concerns is that it's about misinformation, disinformation, and the way the letter puts it is that AI currently can flood our information channels with propaganda and untruth. And I think, Sandra, we've all seen the picture generated by AI of, the Pope Francis a la John Wick, Pope Francis with a big puffy jacket and the, Kalashnikov machine gun. I mean, obviously, that's not a real picture of the Pope. We saw the pictures of Donald Trump getting arrested before he got arrested, and it's getting harder and harder. A more topical example for Nigeria is you have this alleged phone call between Peter Obi and Pastor Oyedepo, and you have people from within the Labour Party camp saying that it's actually a deep fake, that that AI was used to change the sound. Now, I don't know one way or the other, but again, suddenly somebody can say that credibly now.
And even if we can't use the Obi Oyedepo example because we have conflicting messages from that camp, we've definitely seen videos of Whitney Houston doing new music, Michael Jackson doing new music, Kanye West doing music they didn't do. Yeah. Yes,
exactly. And that's the point. And that's the reason why. So, like, if 10 years ago, if you got that kind of a recording and somebody says, oh, no, it's my detractors, a campaign of calumny, it's a deep fake, most of us will be like, Oga, are you sure? But now that we have seen, heard, Whitney Houston singing songs that came out after she died because AI could do that, it now means how much of what you see and hear can you still trust? So that's like one of the big concerns and fears that this open letter is talking about. So I guess these are the major concerns that they're raising.
I wonder, though, how altruistic is this concern from some of the top dogs in your industry? I'm hearing the big bad wolf say, "Oh, woo, I'm a big bad wolf. Stay away from me." And I'm like, okay, why are you warning me? What are you worried about?
Yeah, that's a fair question. And we should point out, by the way, that Elon Musk is one of the signatories of this open letter. And Elon Musk used to be one of the investors in OpenAI. OpenAI, that is the organization that's creating ChatGPT. And he's had some sort of like parting of ways, put it that way, with OpenAI.
Yeah.
So there's a question of, how much of this is you really concerned about humanity, and how much of this is you concerned about, your business interests, for example. And that's a fair assessment, a fair concern. Personally, the way I see these things is, you can look at the messenger, and I always look at the messenger, and then that tells me, okay, where are this person's biases? And then, okay, that means what should I be careful about the things they say? But then that does not mean I should just dismiss the things they say. I should look at their biases, weigh their biases against the things they're saying, and then the things that could be suspicious because of their biases, investigate those things more. And so when we talk about, for example, the power of AI for misinformation and disinformation, in spite of their biases, I think they are correct. In that regard. In terms of AI taking away jobs, I think they are half right and half wrong. Okay. For example, I think jobs will go, some jobs will go, but I think some new jobs will also be created. For example, in organization right now, the work I'm doing right now is okay, because like I told you, we have, and part of the job I'm doing right now is figuring out, okay, in what ways can AI helps startups be better, and what training will startup employees need to have to use AI effectively. So notice, someone is still running the AI, right? That's a job. That's a job that didn't exist 5 years ago, 10 years ago, AI operator, right? Yeah. So, so when we talk about jobs that are going to go, yes, But you have to look at it in terms of, well, if the jobs are going to go, but is it that economic activity for human beings will reduce, or is it that economic activity of human beings
Will evolve.
change? Yes. Like, for example, when, like, 50 years before the automobile, you had lots of people in Europe whose job was around horses and carriages.
That's
you know,
right.
groomsman, a horse tender, vets, all kinds of people, right?
Right.
Carriage person, the blacksmith for the shoe, for the horseshoes.
Right.
But once the car replaced the horse, you needed fewer horses in Europe. So most of those jobs disappeared. Now, if you stop the story there, that sounds like a very terrible story.
Mm-hmm.
But then you suddenly have the auto mechanic who didn't exist 10 years before.
Mm-hmm.
You suddenly have the vulcanizer who didn't exist 20 years before.
Mm-hmm.
You suddenly have the chauffeur who didn't exist. So you see, suddenly you even have the last mile agent, the traffic warden, because people didn't need traffic wardens because horses didn't go that fast.
Mm-hmm.
But you have cars going fast, jamming people, jamming each other. You now need somebody to direct traffic. So you see, it created new jobs that didn't exist before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of this talk about AI wiping out the economy is a bit premature. We've just not yet figured out what those new jobs are.
So they're calling for all the major AI developers to stop improving their systems for 6 months to let government catch up on regulation. How likely is it, and it's a question I asked you last week and I'm asking you again, how likely is it that OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, all the other big players will accept this 6 months pause?
Sandra, so let me talk in technical terms.
Mm-hmm.
If OpenAI, Google, and Microsoft voluntarily accept to pause for 6 months, make I beg. They are not going to, I believe that's a technical term.
They're not going to wait.
They are not going to wait. Just for multiple reasons. I think the first reason is that they are competing with China.
Okay.
All these people you just listed are not Chinese companies. You have Chinese companies doing AI as well right now. Now you pause in the West for 6 months. And what happens? The Chinese overtake you. None of these Western companies want that. That's one. Two, like, they're making a lot of money right now from this. So, like, now, I'm not saying that they should pause. What I'm saying is they are not going to pause voluntarily. So maybe governments may have to do something.
Okay. Lagos, join the conversation 0700-993-993 993 0700-993 993 01465-7190. That's our number for women. Talk to us about this story. With big names in tech calling for a 6-month pause on development of artificial intelligence. Do you think that there's something to worry about here, or do you think everybody's being a bit too alarmist? Chief, so you've given us your assessment of some of these concerns by these big names, right? However, we have these names also calling for government to step in. So we take a look at Italy, for instance. Italy has just stepped in, right? They've ordered OpenAI to stop processing data from Italy. OpenAI are the makers of ChatGPT. ChatGPT, by the way, was the topic that Ruth Okorocha and Ramadan Olalekon debated 2 weeks ago. And Ruth Okorocha and Ramadan will be coming back next week, Wednesday. So Ramadan is not debating on Tuesday anymore because Fabian is not available on that day. So they're both going to debate on Wednesday instead, Wednesday at 3 p.m. So tell someone to tell someone else, right? Wednesday, that's when Ramadan will be debating. But yes, you have Italy saying to OpenAI, stop processing data from Italy. Why did Italy take that decision?
So Italy made the decision based on consumer protection and specifically consumer data. So let's explain a little bit how these AI work, right? This AI basically absorbs information. It reads information from the internet, right? It reads or as it just keeps reading and reading and reading information from different websites. Then it takes that information and breaks it down into concepts, ideas, right? Facts, hard facts, and connects those facts in its database. And it just has very, very, very complex software that can take different facts from different places and pull it together and develop an insight based on those facts and on an understanding. But notice, all of that is coming from data, right?
Already available.
And a lot of that are already available data, and a lot of that data is people's data.
Right.
So there is a fear of, okay, how much of our citizens' data is being used to power these very powerful, programs, and is their privacy being violated, right? And then there are also other knock-on effects. And so the Italians have come into the Italian government to say, no, hold on, you can't use our citizens' data anymore. We're not saying don't do your AI, but you can't use our citizens' data anymore. Now, what they're trying to do is force these companies like OpenAI to come to the government and say, okay, here's how we currently actually use your citizens' data. We're going to account for all of it. And here's how we use it. Here are the ways we don't use it. Here are the rules we play by. And then that allows the Italian government to look at it and say, yes, those rules make sense to us. We feel our citizens are adequately protected. Or, no, we don't. We think you're overstepping. Citizen privacy, citizens' right to their own data is being violated here. Here's what you need to change. So that's why Italy has taken that step. And I'm hearing that France and Germany might be joining them pretty soon here. So it looks like the EU is moving in this direction, which shouldn't surprise anybody, really, because when it comes to technology,
the EU is ahead of the curve.
Yes, they tend to be ahead of the curve. They tend to be more willing to regulate technology than America is. So on one end of the spectrum, you have China, and the other, which is like, very, very restrictive. On the other end of the spectrum, you have the Americans, where it's a lot more anything goes to an extent. But then somewhere in the middle, you have the Europeans with a lot of regulation as well.
What does that mean for us in developing nations? This conversation, are we even a part of it? Should we be a part of it? Do we have concerns here? Is this not our problem just yet? Should we be focusing on figuring out 24 hours power for now? Or is this something that actually concerns us? By us, I mean the African continent. I mean Nigerians living in Nigeria. Is this a conversation that we should be having? Is it not our business just yet?
Well, I think it should concern us, Sandra. I think it is our business. I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can do two things at once. We can be trying to take care of the basics while still facing these advanced things. But a lot of the time, these advanced things, for some things, not all, not most, some things, these advanced concepts give us an opportunity to skip some steps, leapfrog a bit, and catch up with the rest of the world. We are seeing, for example, let me give you a trivial example. You see, like, I work with startups, and I work with Nigerian, African startups in general. And why is it that we're in the same breath that we're talking about American startups, we're talking about Nigerian startups too. We're talking about American, unicorns. We talk about Nigerian unicorns. Because to a certain extent, tech is a bit of a leveler. Tech allows you in some aspects to compete globally, even from a place with poor infrastructure, poor economy. So any big changes in tech are changes that we should be paying attention to, because one, these could be opportunities that help us improve, get even better and more competitive. Or two, this could be threats that close the door on us. So for example, you now have companies like GitHub. GitHub is a company that provides software tools for software developers. Let me just simplify it like that.
Okay.
Now, but GitHub now has an AI called Copilot that can write code. like a software developer. Now you're looking at that, and then you have to think about the Nigerian market, the Nigerian growing market in software engineers who are working remotely from Nigeria for companies all over the world. Are their jobs now in a bit of danger? And which of their jobs are in danger? And how does that affect? And okay, is that something that maybe we should be thinking about? And should we be embracing, this type of AI and using it, adding it to our suite of things that our developers use here to make themselves more competitive? This could affect us in so many different ways.
All right. Lagos, join the conversation. 0700-993-993. 01465-7190. We've got WhatsApp. WhatsApp is 080-959-75805. 080-959-75805. Still to come, ex-US President Donald Trump has been indicted, arrested, booked, bailed, and is now awaiting trial. We're going to bring you that story before the show is over. 99.3, hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon. What's your name, sir? Oh, that's unfortunate. You're going to have to give me a call back if you can. Also, still to come, I've got the EU talking tough about China. Apparently, China is giving everybody sleepless night. You have the US Vice President coming to Africa to the African continent to essentially say, this China that people are romancing, we're better than them. Stay with us. But you also have leaders on the continent who have said it's not enough to say stay away from China. You have to treat us almost like an equal, the way China seems to want to treat players or stakeholders within the African continent. We'll have that conversation next. I'm Sandra Ezekwesili. You're listening to Hard Facts on Nigeria Info. Chief Andy Oboforebo on the show with me. We're taking a look at global stories like we always do every Friday from 3.
To your number one station for talk.
99.3 Nigeria Info.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
I'm Sandra Ezekwesili. You're listening to Hard Facts on 99.3 Nigeria Info. I've got Chief Andy Oboforebo on the show with me. And now let's go to America. We started with tech. Now let's do politics. Ex-US President Donald Trump has been indicted, arrested, booked, bailed, and is now awaiting trial. That's our second story on the show today. Trump has been charged with 34 counts of falsifying business records. Trump is accused of doing that to cover up hush money that he paid to Stormy Daniels, a porn star that he had an affair with. Chief, usually falsifying business records is a misdemeanor. It's not a felony. Why was this escalated to a felony in this case?
Yeah, so in this case, the issue here is that Trump did it. He's been accused of doing this to facilitate another crime or other crimes. So when it's a misdemeanor, changing your business record is a misdemeanor. But if it's done to further other crimes, then it becomes a felony.
I see. All right. Now, Trump is the first U.S. ex-president charged with a crime. Chief, how significant is this?
It's quite significant in that sense, in the sense that this is a major first. Like, it's, no U.S. president has been indicted before. No U.S. president has been arrested before. At least, he turned himself in and was put briefly in custody. That's never happened to a U.S. president before. So he's going to face criminal charges. He's going to be in court on the dock. That's never happened before. So when you look at it that way, it's significant. On the other hand, the question is, what will it really change in terms of American politics, etc.? And that's where I'm not so sure. It doesn't look particularly like groundbreaking here. I don't think it's going to change much.
Some Republican leaders are calling this a witch hunt. Some Democrat leaders are saying that it's above board. I asked you this question last week, but by the time I asked this question last week, we didn't have, what's the word I'm looking for now? We didn't have these charges at the time. How is the public reacting to what is currently happening?
So the public is pretty much split. I think that's the best way to describe it. A lot of people, I think a slight majority of Americans feel like the charges are fair. A significant minority feel it's a witch hunt. Of course, as you can imagine, more Democrats than Republicans feel it's above board. But independents, people who don't identify as Democrat or Republican, just above half of them say, yeah, it's fair. The investigation is fair. And really only less than a quarter of Americans, less than like 23% of Americans believe that Trump has done nothing wrong. That's a very small number. So like more than 3/4 of Americans feel like, yeah, this guy, something is really up. So I think in that sense, politically, one of the two major parties feels it's a witch hunt. But in terms of general public opinion, I think Americans aren't too shocked here.
I saw a report, 56% think that the investigations into Trump are fair. 41% think the investigations into Trump are a witch hunt. 87% of Democrats think the investigations are above board. 51% of independents think the investigations are above board. 18% of Republicans think the investigations are above board. 46% think the former president has done something illegal. 29% think Trump has done something unethical but not illegal. 23% think that Trump has done nothing wrong. Now, even if Trump were to be convicted, Chief, it wouldn't bar him from running for president again. In many other countries like Nigeria, a criminal conviction stops you from running for president. So why is America different?
America tends to like to do things quite differently. But I think what it comes down to is when the American Constitution was written, which is over 2 centuries ago, there were a lot of assumptions about the nature of the people who would occupy these offices. So I think it just basically didn't occur, as funny as that may sound, it didn't occur to the framers of the US Constitution that you would have a situation where a one-term US president would end up being maybe a convicted felon. And after being a convicted felon, would want to run for office. And while wanting to run for office, would stand a serious chance of winning. So you don't, in your constitution, a lot of the time, at least definitely not 200 years ago, people were not writing constitutions based on events that they couldn't foresee or which they did not feel were reasonable. So a lot of, we only started really talking about this in public during the Watergate scandal and the Richard Nixon as he was heading towards impeachment, which he finally avoided by resigning. That was really the first time in the modern, in the modern era, in the television mass media era, that people were really interfacing with the idea that, hey, look, oh, by the way, it's under the law. It's not looking like there are a lot of barriers against, one, a sitting president committing a crime, and then two, a criminal becoming president. Like, it's not really clearly defined, So that's when that first came up. And of course, it's very difficult to change the American Constitution, not on paper, but in terms of the will to do it. It's especially because America is such a polarized country along party lines. I don't think another constitutional amendment will pass in my lifetime. I'm ready to take a bet on that. So, so that's kind of why America is the way it is now. But you notice that younger countries are quick to add, look, if you are a felon or you're indicted, you can't run for this office because, experience na teacher.
Experience na teacher. Okay. Lagos, join the conversation. 0700-993-993-993. That's for men. Women, call us on 01465-7190. We've got WhatsApp as well. WhatsApp is 080-959-75805. And of course, we have Facebook, Nigeria Info 99.3. Are you following what's happening with the U.S. president, former U.S. President Donald Trump? 99.3. What's your name, sir?
Okay, my name is Bahome.
Bahome, talk to me.
Okay, about this Trump matter. This DA, as this case are brought to him before, he turned it down. There are a lot of, even Robert Mueller investigated this matter. And Robert Mueller, with all the accusations of bias, he wasn't able to pick up this particular case. So in this, when you look at the history of this case, I think there's a high level of political antagonism in this particular case. The DA, even when he was campaigning to be he never wanted it until somebody that worked for free there came back, wrote a book, and then they now escalated it. So I think it's political.
All right.
I think it's very, very political.
Bahome thinks it's political, Chief. What do you think?
So I think, let me put it this way. District attorneys going after a president or a former president are almost always political. And even when they're not political, they will always be called political. Robert Mueller was called political for investigating, as special prosecutor for investigating Donald Trump. Ken Starr was called political for being special prosecutor investigating Bill Clinton. So I think there is really nothing new there. I mean, if as the caller says, this same DA who is political, right, saw the case the first time, and in spite of being political, didn't take the case, and now he's taking the case. Does that sound like the decision is political? Because if the decision were political, why didn't he take the case the first time? So because he was equally political then. So like put it this way, you can be political, and want to get the guy, and still feel like I want to get this guy, but I don't get which name I feel use better. So this one way they bring to me to get the guy it's not strong enough. Child, I wish it was strong enough. No worry. Next time, I'll get him.
All right.
And you let it go.
We've got a message here from Frank. Frank says, we will no fit upload election result. Now, chat GPT, we want to talk. Please, Sandra. Yes, I'm sure we can receive Skype calls. Have you tried to call via Skype? Please go ahead and give us a call via Skype. We'll definitely take the call. We've got this message here from Greenish. Greenish says, Tinubu was not even indicted, and LP are saying he's not eligible to run. So Trump must also be stopped by force by fire. All right, Greenish. We've got Barrister Max, who says, why are you and Chief so biased against Trump? You swallow hook, line, and sinker everything you see on CNN. The polls you just read is a CNN or NPR poll, which are known for their bias against Trump. Truth is, this is nothing but a political witch hunt. The same thing Trump has suffered for over 7 years. Just because he refused to bow to the globalist order. Trump is the greatest president ever in the history of America, and he will be president again. So I guess this Barrister Max is part of the 23% that think that Trump has done nothing wrong, and also part of the 41% of the people that think that investigations into Trump are a witch hunt. We've got Frank Azu joining us. Hi, Frank. Welcome. Talk to me. Frank, are you there? Hello, Frank. Okay, looks like our internet, the connection to Frank isn't great. Frank, if you can call back, please call back. 99.3, hello. Sorry about that. Call back if you can. All right, let's see if we got Frank again. Hi, Frank. Are you back?
Wow. So it's great. It's good to know I can call. Because I used to think that Chief is on the call. That's why I used to think it's an internal call. Oh, Chief, I greet you. I don't know if you can hear me.
No, he can't hear you. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but Chief can't hear you. Go ahead, please.
All right. So, okay, I want to talk about Trump. All right, I want to talk about Trump. For me, like the last caller said, I think it's more political. It looks more political. No, we say Trump's getting on for body. We know how he is. We know the kind of position he takes on certain issues, and good comments, and he could be harsh, tweeting necessarily or unnecessarily. But the what they are accusing him of, the hush payment, come on, it's like telling somebody to keep quiet. It's like me bribing my kid. Don't tell mommy that you saw me or something. It's not something that they're just whipping it up. There is definitely political underlining, in it. But Sandra, like I always do, I always connect both, what's happening out there with Nigeria. So look at what happens here. This is a man that lost an election and had been crying that the election was stolen, even though there are not really facts to back it up. He has a great lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. That guy, his license was Giuliani. His license was seized. As of yesterday, I still heard him shouting, the election was seized, it was stolen and the whole stuff. Now, I don't think so. But the thing is this. The people that think that the election was stolen, they're not gagged. They still have the freedom to speak and say how they feel. Now, that is a little bit different from where I come from. You can see a little bit kind of gagging of the press. I can feel it. I almost told your colleague this morning, Sherry, that look, your morning crossfire segment, I think you're deliberately leaving some topics, and there should be that freedom. You cannot beat a baby and don't let him cry. You can see the difference in the societies. Like, your election was stolen, but you cannot talk, and they have the freedom to do it. But let's go back to the American stuff. Trump is political. That's just all I think.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for calling, Frank Azu. Let's quickly go to our final story now. Like I've been saying, we have this story from the European Commission saying that China is seeking a new international order with Beijing as a dominant player. And we have have the leader of the European Commission, the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, saying that the European Union must be assertive in defending its security and economic interests, including possible EU-wide controls on outbound investment. And I wonder, you hear that, Chief? What do you think got the EU here? Chief, can you hear me? I think you're muted. If you're speaking, you're muted. We can't hear you, Chief.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, so I was saying that I think the thing there was that the EU is seeing itself in a way, I guess you could say, losing relevance economically, globally. Everybody is feeling threatened by the ascent of China. And I think more so, I think the EU more than other people, the US is still holding out. But it's kind of interesting that von der Leyen it says this, because China isn't doing anything that the EU wouldn't do or hasn't tried to do. China isn't doing anything that the US or Russia hasn't tried to do in terms of how China is treating the rest of the world. Now, I'm not talking about issues in Taiwan or Hong Kong. I'm talking about, relationships with Africa, relationships with Latin America, and all of that. All China is doing is trying to increase its influence globally. And that's sort of shocking everybody. But what are the immediate causes right now? You have, of course, the whole BRICS thing that's happening, and Russia and China really, like strengthening BRICS. And why is that happening? Because in this war, as Russia invaded Ukraine and the West, slammed the sanctions on Russia, Russia ran to China for help, and China has been very happy to help Russia along. And in doing that, they've kind of upset the West, because the West wanted a united front with China against the Russians. But China has seen an opportunity here to increase its influence by basically getting Russia to do its bidding in exchange for giving Russia the economic help it needs right now in this war.
Okay.
And the diplomatic cover as well.
And of course, she also said, quote, "We can expect to see a clear push to make China less dependent on the world and the world more dependent on China," end quote. Is this accurate? And if it is accurate, is there anything wrong with this? I mean, isn't this what every country wants, like I've been saying? Can you hear me?
Yeah, like I said, Sandra, yes. Like I said, I don't think there is anything wrong with it. I think it's accurate. I think von der Leyen's analysis of what China is trying to do is 100% accurate. Where I have a problem is her framing it like China is doing something that's so like evil. Like, this is what everybody tries to do. Everybody tries to, everybody tries to make the world more dependent on them and make themselves less dependent on the world. That's, in fact, what every nation should be trying to do. It's not China's fault that China has become better than Europe. It's just not China's fault.
And then she also said,
and I think there's also a bit of like, I don't want to be very strong and use the word imperialist, but there's a bit of a hypocrisy there, I should say, and a bit of a superiority complex. Like, oh, this thing that we Europeans have been doing for a couple of 100 years, even going to the extent of colonizing the world to make the world dependent on us, you can't do it. Suddenly the Chinese are doing it. Hey, now it's bad. No.
And of course, von der Leyen also said, quote, "The Chinese Communist Party's clear goal is a systemic change of the international order with China at its center." I started with this quote when I started this story. Do you think China is succeeding at this? What are the implications for the rest of the world beyond the West? Chief, do we still have
China
you?
is succeeding. China is succeeding. You know, I guess you could put it this way that but I think there are limits to how much success China will have with this. At the end of the day, there's been a boom in Chinese influence, in part, funded by Chinese loans to the developing world, including us over here, and that has helped China boost its influence in the world. But there is a big question mark around how long does that last, right? One, how much longer will China be able to afford to keep putting all this money into the rest of the world? That's one. Two, what happens when the developing world suddenly can't repay China? And let's not pretend like that's not going to happen. We've seen it happen with the West. That's part of the reason why the West currently isn't loaning money to the rest of the world. They've been burnt before. They've been burnt. They've had situations where they ended up having to forgive a whole ton of debt back in the mid-2000s. And so they don't want to go down this route anymore. Only China is going down there for now. But when people start defaulting en masse in Africa, in Southeast Asia, in Latin America, how will China handle that? Will China handle that in a way that maintains their influence? Will hostility between China and their debtors go up? Will the West be smart enough to take advantage of that crisis and use that crisis to rebuild its relationships with the rest of the world? Those are the big questions that need to be answered. I don't think anybody really has those answers yet. So I think there is a question mark around the longevity of this China's global ascendancy. What would make the difference is if China could take advantage of this ascendancy right now to replace the dollar with the yuan as the currency of exchange across the world. But there are limits to how much of that can happen, because if you even see, even with countries that are owing China like a ton of money, their use of the yuan as exchange, as a mediation currency, is still pretty low, or even as a reserve currency, is still pretty low. Nigeria got into a deal at the start of the Buhari administration to do naira swap with yuan, but that's really for imports from China. That's really for imports from China. And really, I mean, nobody, Sandra, when last did you hear somebody asking you on the road? Right now, yuan now how much? But every day people are asking dollar now how much. So that should show you that there are limits to what China can achieve.
Okay. We've got a message here from Maki, Lagos. Maki says, Sandra, I beg, that AI matter, Nigeria never mature at all for that kind of thing, except it is going to be implemented to put our wicked and selfish politicians in proper human order. Common 4G here, no significant penetration achieved yet. We are still zillions of centuries away from such technical development from China, the US, and more. About Trump matter, the guy know too much. Now, person like every one of us, and does not deserve special respect or view. If they find I'm guilty, make him go prison like R. Kelly. All right. Thank you for your message. We've got this message here from Greenish again. Greenwich says, U.S. have been using their dollar as a weapon for years. Countries have witnessed what Russia is going through, so they are all eager to join BRICS. Nigeria should also join. We need new currency. All right. Frank Azu says, what China is doing now is not new, but they're obviously using a different tactic. With respect to their partners, for me, China's diplomatic rise is a welcome development to counterbalance the hegemony of the West. All right, Chief, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us on the Big Three Global today. But of course, you're still with us as our Chief Judge on I Beg to Differ. I Beg to Differ is coming up in 7 minutes from 4 p.m. That's when the final group stage match will happen between Olaloye Toluolashe and Stephanie Ame. This is the first time we'll be hearing from Stephanie Ame this season because Group D has been quite dramatic. First, you had Esther Bewaji pull out. Then you had Olucha Kwarandu, who was supposed to face Stephanie Ame, pull out. And so this is Stephanie Ame's very first debate. However, Stephanie Ame is already in the quarterfinals because by pulling out, Olucha Kwarandu lost her match to Stephanie, and Stephanie won that match with Olucha Kwarandu. So she has 2 wins. She has 1 win. Olaloye Toluola, she has 1 win as well. And both of them will be in the quarterfinals next week. This debate is to find out who will be facing who will face Deborah Pamzat on Thursday, who will face Tanvita Kaushik on Monday. Lagos, we'll take a break. When we come back, let's debate. Chief, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sandra.